Speaker.
I call the honourable member Sue Kedgley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the Green Party is very happy to join in all parties in this House in supporting this bill, which will give a degree of relief in varying ways to the people of Canterbury and is, of course, sorely needed. Under the bill, welfare contributions by employers to employees will not be subject to income or fringe benefit tax for the 8 weeks after the earthquake, and it would, of course, be perverse in the extreme to consider putting a tax on the goodwill of the Canterbury employers on those who unselfishly contributed to the well-being of their employees at a time when there was acute hardship and suffering. And, of course, the contributions that the employers made to their employees were made in varying forms, in cash, in accommodation, in goods, and none of these wonderfully generous contributions ought to be subject to penalty, given the circumstances of that given. And so that is why we support rather unusually retrospective tax provisions in this bill. We would, however, like to record our concern yet again at the circumventing of the democratic process in getting this bill through Parliament, because the bill was actually tabled on the 4th of May. There would have been ample time. We asked that there be a select committee process. There would have been ample time since May the 4th to have allowed a select committee process even of a week or two. But yet again, it seems as though we've just got into the habit of circumventing the democratic process, rushing this sort of bill, everything to do with Canterbury, racing it through the House, circumventing select committee, putting it under urgency, and when, as in this case, there actually was no need. There has been the 4th of May, now we're the 19th of May, so there was time, there would have been time to have allowed the people of Canterbury to have some say, to make some submissions on this bill. We'd also like to record our concern that in the regulatory impact statement that accompanies this bill, the Inland Revenue talks about the fact that because of the very constrained time frame which Inland Revenue said it had done, and I quote, severely limited the depth of research and analysis that had been able to be undertaken. And the department goes on to acknowledge that a significant degree of uncertainty is involved where fiscal cost estimates have been made. So that's a little bit of concern. The whole thing has been rushed. And also they go on to say there's been difficulties in accurately estimating the amount of employer welfare support, the proportion of that support that would be treated correctly for tax purposes, and so on and so forth. So that is, I just want to record a bit of concern there, but principally we want to express our concern that every bill with respect to Canterbury has been introduced under urgency without a select committee process. In fact, ironically, everything, it goes right back to the first Canterbury bill that circumvented democracy, which was the bill legislation before this House, which got rid of Environment Canterbury, a democratically elected regional council, wiped out under urgency. Well, the democratically elected representatives were removed under urgency in 24 hours. Once again, no ability for select committee, no ability for the people of Canterbury to... Mr. Speaker? No ability for the people of Canterbury to have their input, and then we've had a succession of bills relating to the Canterbury earthquake, which have once again circumvented the democratic process, given what could only be described as draconian powers to the Minister in charge of the Canterbury earthquake, namely Gerry Brownlee. The other thing I just want to mention with this bill is that this is all, we're delighted to support the bill, which does, as I say, provide some relief to the people of Canterbury in varying ways. But the bigger question does remain about the rebuild of Canterbury. And we still cannot understand, the day out from the budget, why this government refused to introduce an earthquake levy. The people of New Zealand had made it clear in polls, in many ways, that they were only too happy to contribute an earthquake levy, a tax to help with the rebuild of Christchurch. But the government refused to introduce a levy, and instead, effectively, what we're going to be doing is borrowing to enable the Canterbury rebuild. We think this is extremely unfortunate. I suspect perhaps the reason is that the government likes the idea that we're financially stretched, because then that gives it the excuse to go out and say that they simply have to wring their hands and say we simply have to sell off all the remaining assets of New Zealand, sell our state-owned assets, etc. Well, it does give them the excuse when the other option is to increase revenue through things such as having a Canterbury earthquake levy and other suggestions we've made, such as the capital gains tax other than on the family home. But no, the government wants to get rid of debt without increasing revenue at all, and we see it also here in Canterbury. So that is, I think, a fundamental problem which will come back to haunt us. And yes, it's all very well that we've got these inflated Treasury estimates of the growth in the economy, but most people are saying they're completely unrealistic. So what will happen then? Anyway, back to this bill. We're very pleased to support it. We want to put on record our regret that yet again it's been introduced under urgency. Yet again we're not allowing the people of Canterbury to have a say on this bill, which will affect them in varying ways. Yet again we've abandoned the select committee process, and we're ramming this bill through the House. This does seem to be becoming a pattern with this in this term of Parliament. I think it is an extremely worrying pattern, and it's almost like the habit of democracy, the habit of having a select committee process, allowing people to hear. It's almost like we're just sort of abandoning this habit, and I hope that we don't get into the habit of just constantly ramming things through when it comes to Canterbury without respecting the democratic process. Thank you.
I call the honourable member